I'm going to review these books and f2f. I'm having potatoes that I fried up with some wild rice and celery and, I don't know, pesto. James is having the rice and some hummus and some pineapple. And
the hummus is not on the wild rice.
No.
It's on
the celery sticks.
Right?
Yeah. So out of these books, I'll just get reviewing these really quick and then leave it over to James. Out of these three,
I'll take my time on the food.
Okay.
So.
This one's the worst. So I'm reviewing
my heavens, she starts with the worst. So yeah.
No, I'm reviewing 3 thrillers today. So they're mystery sort of thrillers, and to my surprise, this one was the best one.
It actually was thrilling.
It was good.
How about the other 2?
It was
not that thrilling.
This one wasn't that good. I guess I'll
think
start
that
with
one you were thrilled when you finished it, right?
Yeah.
I can recall you.
So this is from the visionary creators of CSI, Crime Scene Investigation.
That one you were mentioning that.
So that's Dark Prophesy, and I don't know. I'm just gonna, even if there's, I'm gonna give you a spoiler alert first because I don't really think you should bother reading it. So if I give away some stuff, that's because I don't think you should bother reading it. How would the second victim instinctually know that it was a white rose? If you read the story, the killer's like, reach into your pocket, take out, whatever's in the pocket. And the person instinctually, they knew what it was. And it's like, how? How would they possibly know? There's no way. And even if they felt, and they were like, oh, it feels like a rose. How do they know it's a white rose? It's ridiculous. Anyway, it started out both gruesome and boring. Somehow. How do you do that?
Remember how CSI would always start out
that's right.
before the ads kicked in or whatever?
Okay.
Like some sort of gruesome scene. Sort of usually involving women in bikinis. Like
somehow.
Did they do that at CSI New York? I can't remember, but Las Vegas and
written as well as one Miami. Would expect a TV show book to be written. Who would write a book like this for their mother? It's dedicated to my mother Diana. This one's for you. Really?
Maybe it's Diana
Page
Rigg.
202. The naked woman in the gas mask had olive skin. Page 190. Hilda's skin with smooth brown. If Abdulia Maestro is the female one of the 2 killers, how does she have 2 different skin colors? And it turned out that she didn't. There's 2 different people. So Hilda and Abdulia are not the same person. So
you were warned about
this. As mildly entertaining as it was a work of crap and not believable. After the acknowledgements, Justine Bateman and Michael Ironside were mentioned. Did they really agree to play characters in a movie based on this book? Why bother? And my comment was, good parents would never, ever become psycho killers. It doesn't, it doesn't matter if their kid was, died from like hospital neglect or just hospital.
It was supposed to be a reaction to this horrible trauma.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, being a killer is a reaction to horrible trauma in childhood.
Your own. Yeah, not anyway.
No. Yes, your own.
But I found it interesting that there's a fortune told with tarot cards in this. Events are all triggered by the death of a child. Then mention of a labyrinth in the preview for the new book. Interesting. And in the end, he's enjoying life with his 5-year-old daughter named Sibby. As stupid as the story is, I figure I was meant to read it. Because, well, all of these things, it's funny. The books I've been picking out lately, they all seem to have something to do with my life. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just there. So
there have been a few things about plague, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. So and I mean, these are all just, they've been in my basement for years. Like this one here, published in 2009. So it's been there a while. I haven't bothered to read it, but I picked them up and somehow they're relevant. So anyway, so now I'm at Where the Dead Lay, and this one, the cover looks so bad, and I'm like, I didn't expect anything from it, because it starts out there, it's like a mixed martial arts sort of studio and stuff like that. Anyway, near a money mart or something like that. And it's like, you can picture the neighborhood and you're like, God, I'd never want to be in that neighborhood. But it's just not a part of my culture, this stuff. It's very well written. The characters are well crafted. The story is not only believable but entertaining. I never could have imagined that I'd enjoy a story like this one, with drug dealers, martial arts types people. The mystery is a good one. The author made a mistake on page 334. You can have people say, I feel nauseous, because although it's incorrect, people say that all the time. However, when an author has the narrator use nauseous when nauseated is what is meant, it is just embarrassing for the writer. So, this one, although it's well written, it's not because, like, obviously the author that wrote this one is far better educated than the author who wrote this one. But the author who wrote this one has a sense of the types of people, how they talk, the culture of the people that are the characters in the story. So I don't think that this author, David Levien, should bother writing any other sort of characters than, because I don't think he's actually capable of it. But for what he does do, he's awesome. Absolutely awesome. He did a great job. And honestly, I don't think this author could do what he did. Because it takes, I mean, you really have to know a culture. They always say, write what you know. And it's, I don't know if people can really go beyond that, you know. So anyway, this one, so this is f2f, and I got to learn that means face to face. So I don't know all this text lingo stuff, because I was never interested in, you know, everybody got interested in doing texting and stuff like that. And I'm just I can't understand why anybody would bother.
For the longest time, I thought LOL stood for lots of love.
That's what my sister thought too. Yeah. So she'd put it at the bottom of letters. Did you want me to
just put that on there?
It's a lucky thing I didn't put it on you. I'm not very coordinated. I'm more coordinated than Paris.
There was only one little drop and it missed my runner, so awesome.
So anyway, I wrote, wow, this was a perfect mystery. I hadn't expected to enjoy this book. I thought there'd be a lot of computer dialogue, like texting, making up most of the content. This was not the case, thank heavens. The heroes are two computer-savvy males. One is an adult, the other is a 12-year-old boy who isn't very thrilled that he looks like a 10-year-old girl. There's even real romance in the story, and a perfect surprise ending. I didn't want to set this book down to even feed myself. I read it in a part of one day. Everyone should read this book. It's not only very well written and entertaining, it's also educational. One can learn a lot about the ways internet predators can attack their victims. Joy Boy would make a 12-year-old boy who feels uncomfortable with his body realize that he could be a real hero just as he is. I would have to say that I wouldn't want my 12-year-old child reading such violent fiction aimed at a mature audience, but I was reading violent content at that age. Mostly Stephen King. John. So. This is a far better read than most of the stuff I read as a teen. In fact, this is the best mystery/thriller I have read this year. And I don't just mean since the new year. I mean within the year.
It's the last 12 months.
Very good. So, like a lot of the time with the mysteries, they have the conclusion, you know, and then there's like some boring sort of stuff at the end where the characters are, I don't know, thinking about stuff or whatever. And you're like, okay, why did you include that, you know? He ends it right where it should. It's awesome. Awesome. So, yeah, and it's interesting too because this one has something to do with my life too right now, and It's just very interesting. So anyway, so that's all I have to say. You can go ahead with whatever review you were going to do.
Well, I want to review something that Theresa Tam was quoted.
Oh, okay.
She was saying again that we got to learn to live with where COVID-19's with us forever. Oh, that's interesting. The most populous country in the world is not accepting that. It's China, People's Republic of China. And the country that's handled the best, Australia, just stopped the world's top tennis player from coming and playing in their big tournament of the year, the Australian Open. They don't seem to accept it, that they gotta live with it forever. What Theresa Tam is doing is she's covering up for herself. She, along with her buddy Justin Trudeau, unleashed this on us. And they keep on unleashing new variation. On it.
And well, they don't want to take the blame for like killing the 5-year-old Albertan girl recently, stuff like that.
Yeah, so a 5-year-old Albertan girl with apparently no predisposition to
no comorbidities.
Yeah, died of it. So we're all in this together except for her and
everyone else who's dead and dying.
Over 20,000 Canadians. She's such a pompous ass saying these things too, as though it's like Moses on the Mount, you know, like coming down with the 10 Commandments. Theresa Tam, I have my way. You're going to be facing crimes of negligence against humanity. You have been absolutely awful. You should be. I think it's more than negligence, but she knows what's happening now. So I'm stating a minimal case. You should spend the rest of your life in jail. I don't believe in the death penalty. I'm not going to say anything about that. You've caused the deaths of, or you've been a contributor to the deaths of thousands and thousands of people. I don't know where it's going to end. You deserve to spend the rest of your life in prison. No chance of parole. None. Frankly, I'd say the same about Justin Trudeau, but he's so dumb, I don't think he realized really what was going on. But he should spend time in jail too. Same thing with Jason Kenney in Alberta. Bonnie Henry in BC. I've covered all the 3 major parties in Canada. Shameful. Bonnie Henry, she knew better when she was saying N95 masks don't work. Don't work as advertised. Terrible, terrible, terrible woman. Horrible. Not as bad as Theresa Tam, not yet. And the government in BC is not quite as bad as Jason Kenney here in Alberta. I mean, you know, people talk about Jason, isn't he a movie killer or something like that? Horror movie?
No.
Yeah. Nothing by comparison with Jason Kenney. He's allowed over 2,000 Albertans to die just to keep his little party, his wild party, together. So, I just hope their little idea that this is just going to turn endemic is going to happen, starting with Omicron. I don't think there's any guarantee. I don't think it's even a 50% chance. Maybe it is. think they're playing Russian roulette with 6 bullets in the chamber. Well, we'll say 5. Probably 6. Okay, so the other day, yesterday, actually, turns up, I was reviewing Walter Bade. I like astrophysics. I was conjecturing about his name and name on him being Dutch. I want to make that clear. Van Beethoven, Ludwig. The name is Dutch, but I believe he hailed from Bonn, which is like in the center of West Germany. That's why it served, theologians know why it served, I think, as the capital of West Germany. They didn't want to put the capital in Berlin, which was surrounded by commies. So, yeah, and I wanted to correct. Osterbrock. I was saying Oster is the name of the author. This book is the German name for Easter, and something bothered me about that, and then I realized Ostern is Easter. Okay? I'll make lots of mistakes when I'm woken up. And oh yeah, do not, whatever you do, don't pay any money for this. I don't think you'd get much out of it in terms of understanding astronomy. And yeah, it's like Andromeda here. He's much more of a star than he is. But or was seriously dead right now. But I wouldn't even recommend that you read it. I mean, I'm kind of compulsive about astronomy. It looks as though he's more of an actual astronomer, someone who noticed stuff out there, as opposed to being a theoretician. Edwin Hubble Bubble. Hubble trouble is really more like what he was like with his Big Bang theory. Same thing, only more so with Georges Lemaitre, the guy who really dreamed that up. It's almost like a nightmare. So enough of that. Let's see. So you're going to be getting a huge dose, as I am, of various sorts of religions and stuff like that. It's somewhat controversial when I have a few things to say about religion nowadays. You kind of expect that, but it's gotten to the point where people will be saying they know more about religion than I do. And there are, I suppose, some people in the world that know more about various world religions and some minor religions than me. But, you know, in order to really do a study of religions, you got to control the sources, and there ain't many people in Lethbridge who know more about religions than I do. That's 100,000 people. Maybe I'm 1 in 100,000. I don't think there's really too many people in Calgary. That's 1 in a million who know more about religion than I do. Studied lots and lots and lots of languages, and studied a variety of the writings of major religions around the world in those languages. So there are people who know more about Protestantism than I do. Not many. Well, the big trouble is they wouldn't know, unless they're really special, shall we say, as much, let's say, about Eastern Orthodox or Roman Catholicism or Islam or Hinduism or even Buddhism. So that's I've kind of spread myself thin, but not really. Well, there's some things like Christianity. I've spread myself. I was raised on thick. I've spread myself thick. So if someone is specializes in just one thing, they really don't have much of a context for religions generally.
Yeah, but you work very hard at remembering the stuff too, so...
It's not just as though I wade through this stuff. I retain some of the stuff. It's not as much as I'd like. There's no way I'd say I characterize myself as ever having a photographic memory. It was more photographic when I was younger. I have to use memory techniques and things like that nowadays. But I'm still learning, and I'm almost age 68, so the techniques have worked up to this point in time, and so long as I don't have a bad stroke or die, I'll keep on learning for a long time. So this thing started out well, Protestantism. It's part of a series of books, The Great Religions of Modern Man. There's one on Buddhism, one on Christianity, Catholicism, this one Christianity, Protestantism, one on Hinduism, which I own, and I have one on Buddhism as well. There's one on Islam and there's one on Judaism. So, you know, that's see the trouble with multiculturalism. They've only got like 6 religions, but you know, there are sub-religions and all this sort of stuff. And the trouble is multiculturalism. I ran across a definition of it in a sociology text, and it said multiculturalism is, and of course they're saying it's a great thing, but it's like a documentary that works against itself. It's where traditional cultures are, are allowed to kind of maintain themselves. Well, you see how, you know, you'll get all sorts of people who think they're left-wing, and they're strutting around, I'm a multiculturalist. And yes, they are. You know, they are conservative. What's happened is with bunches and bunches of folks from the 60s and later, is they have changed the nature of their, shall we call it, party. So it's well understood.
Well, multiculturalism keeps cultures from, at least from a religious perspective, it keeps them from evolving.
It's not just a religious perspective, it's everything. It keeps them from evolving.
Yeah. So it's the aggressive personality types favor multiculturalism because the only way that aggressive people hold on to power is by keeping a society from developing forward. If they can hold it back, then it stays within their grasp.
It's more the aggressive propagandists that are for it. You know, they're out there virtue semaphoring, not signaling. You know, like what they're doing is they're waving their arms around, jumping up and down. Look at me, I'm a multiculturalist, and you know, I'm sitting there back, you're just thinking, you're embarrassing yourself, not just from...
Well, they are embarrassing themselves, because for anybody who looks at things, who steps back and just looks at this from as an outsider, they see that aggressive propagandists, although they may believe that they have the whip hand, and I'm sure they do believe that right now in Canada.
They're going after their witch hunting right now.
They never do. They're always cheerleaders and always cheerleading for the aggressive rulers.
So right now they're cheerleading for the witch hunting that's going on. Yeah.
It's the aggressive ruler to follow all the time, every time.
Or that's hanging around in their midst.
Yeah.
So this book starts off well. It's got stuff on William Tyndale, precursors of the Protestant movement, and actually it has quotes from some of these folks. You know, Erasmus, Desiderius Erasmus, early contemporary of some of the early Protestant founders. John Huss was, of all places, you don't associate Protestantism with what's now the Czech Republic, but I believe he was put to death, and that's more than 100 years before Martin Luther's theses 102 years before. So they've got that, and they've got pretty good stuff on the beginnings of Protestantism. Stuff from Jean Calvin, or Jean Calvin, as we tend to say, and which is almost as bad a mispronunciation as my mispronunciation, but at least I'm trying. It's got a little bit of stuff by Martin Luther. I don't know if they mentioned Melanchthon. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right. What would his name really be? It might be Schwarzerd or something like that. I don't think his name, that's a Greek version of his original German name. I don't know that as being a German name. Schwarz, something or other. You can hear the mel, like a melon. I was probably mispronouncing his name, but at least I know roughly who he was, and so on and so forth. There's Jean Calvin and Ulrich Zwingli, however you want to mispronounce it. At least I'm trying. And then it kind of peters out when it starts dealing with Methodism and some of the later developments in Protestantism. Got a little bit on the Anabaptists. It's kind of disappointing there. What, 3 pages? Part of 3 pages. But then it gets into more what this fella believes. And the fella who wrote it, well, it's not necessarily fella, but it dates from 1969. So this person who wrote it, and he's a liberal kind of Protestant. In other words, he really doesn't believe in he doesn't seem to believe much in in how inspired the scriptures were, or true, and inspired might have this thing must be. But the modern liberal and things like that. And it's too much of his own ideas. I just want reports on what Protestantism is, not what he thinks it should be. So I'm hoping the other 2 books in the series that I own are a little bit better than this. It's not a very good presentation. It's not recommended reading. It's definitely not recommended to buy it if it's still. How much time? About 5 minutes? You
have 1 minute to talk about Polynesian languages.
And a brief history of the American West. Well, I'll give you an introduction, or a brief introduction, a brief history of American West. The guy who used to, this is the guy who taught me American history at the university, and they got rid of the successor. And so all I can say is this is brief, and it is really multicultural. So there's huge representation. I don't know if they have blacks in the West, that sort of stuff. See how small it is?
Yeah.
And indigenous people in the West, yeah. But when you start throwing in, and maybe Chicanos, because of what's happened the last little while.
Yeah.
But Orientals in the West, like huge chapters on them. Something this small, no, it's inappropriate to mention. The Chicanos